We don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to ask you a question, I'm going to ask you an advice. So recently there was an app in France that was opened by our government to gather questions of public interest. So we did the necessary in the UFO community in France to make sure that the UAP issue was among the first. And we did great, it was the first one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what we did, so it was thanks to Leo who launched the question on the app. And so the question was, what is the plan for the French government to get back all the, because France is late compared to the US when it comes to laws and everything. And the question was, what the French government intend to do to make it up. And we had a response from the Minister of the Industry, and it was really stigmatizing. So I have the feeling that they are not really taking the issue seriously in the French government. Since you opened the Pandora box in the US, would you have an advice to give to the French UFO community, something that we could do to unlock this issue?
I can tell you what we did that worked, and maybe you can draw some lessons from that. So the reason we were successful was because we were able to make it a national security issue. And we had violations of military airspace, lots of them, and we were able to get pilots to come in to Congress and explain that to senators and congressmen, and they had tremendous credibility, plus we had the videos. And so they began to understand this is a real thing. And once they understood that, they had the motivation to seek more answers. And we didn't go in and say, make it a science issue. They never would have touched it. If we went in and said, you should look into this because maybe it's a manifestation of alien intelligence, they never would have touched it. And I knew that going in, that we had to make it a national security issue to give them the political cover and space to be able to engage. Many of them were personally curious, but they wouldn't say that publicly. They were curious like we were, but they needed a good excuse to tell their constituents and the voters.
It's radioactive for politicians.
Or it's air safety.
Yeah.
For example, mid-air collisions, we got to protect our people, so that's why I'm asking about it. Or they could be Chinese drones, like with a Chinese balloon. So we need to make sure that we know who's in our airspace. So those were the kinds of reasons that were successful with our government. So if you can find evidence like that, it might help. One of the things that differs between our governments is the power of Parliament versus Congress.
Yeah.
So our congressmen on these intelligence committees and armed services committees have a lot of power, and they get a lot of information, and they can ask for it, demand a lot of information, hold public hearings. In parliamentary forms of government, it's not the same.
Yeah.
The parliamentarians don't get much defense information or intelligence information. They just kind of go along. So it's harder in a country like France, I think, to do what we did in America.
Yeah.
So I think that probably the best thing you can do is try to find really credible space personnel or military personnel who've had experiences and are willing to stand up and say, yeah, I saw this and this is real. And my colleagues, airline pilots, for example, they're a great credible source of witnesses, and more of them are coming out. And so if you can make it an issue that puts the government in a position of having to respond to a safety issue or a national security issue, that would help if you could do that.
Yeah, that would be a good challenge. I'm gonna gather some pilots. Thank you very much, Chris. That was a real pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.